Hey everyone, on this week's episode of Being Better Beans, we're chatting with Mevit Bricks, a Lego parts reseller. If you don't know what that is, stay tuned because it's a great story about a dad who was just trying to solve a problem for his son that turned into an amazing side hustle. If you love this content, remember to subscribe and follow on all the socials. So, welcome in tonight. Our guest is Kevin from Mevit Bricks. Welcome. How are you?
Doing great, man. Thanks for having me on.
Oh, it's been a pleasure getting to know you through streaming and through the brick building community, and I knew I wanted to chat with you because you're someone who did things a bit differently, from the content creator side that a lot of people know already. You have a store,
Yes, I
so I
do.
wanted to talk about that experience with you and kind of get a feel for what it's like to take that as a kind of side hustle passion project. I don't know what would you call it.
It would definitely be a side hustle. It was one of my ways to keep involved with Lego itself and its community that I started watching on Twitch and stuff. I got into watching the Twitch streamers and stuff like that, and my son was doing Lego, and then after a while he decided that he didn't want to do Lego anymore, and he had a lot of Lego left over. So kind of got into that way, but there's a little bit more to that as well.
Interesting. So were you not a collector like yourself?
So as a kid, I had Lego. I had
Mhm.
all the different house sets. I'm old enough that it was mainly house and fire station type stuff. It was never there was no themes basically back in like my time frame.
Yeah.
My family kept all the Lego. My mom sent it to my sister who had 3 kids. She added to that Lego when my kids came up. She sent it over to us. So we started getting back into Lego. I did have my dark ages. I did not buy any Lego, didn't touch any Lego. My friend sent me a Technic set one time. It's the one that it had a rubber band and had like a squeeze thing, and you would actually try to knock the other person
Oh.
off. And I don't think Technic was the right thing to send to me because Technic was just, I can't stand Technic.
It wasn't for you. It wasn't for you.
It's not for me. But then my son came along, and I built his sets until he could build his sets. And since we had family all in town, he nonstop got sets whenever Christmas, birthdays, what have you.
Hmm.
Just go visit the grandparents. He'd come home with a set. So I was building a lot more sets with him, and so I got more into it. And so every once in a while, I'd buy a set for myself as well. Um, but probably around 8 or 9 years old, had a birthday, and he had like 6 sets, and I'm waiting for him to build them. And I come in one day, and sitting on the table are 6 sets, cardboard boxes all open up, bags half opened, and all that other stuff. And I'm like, what the heck? So I go into his room, and he's got all the minifigs out, and he's playing with the minifigs.
Of course.
I'm like,
Of
hey,
course.
bud, did you want the sets only for the minifigs? He's like, yeah. I'm like, okay. So then that's when I started researching how do I buy just these minifigs,
Hmm.
and lo and behold, I came along Bricklink. I started looking into it, started reading about it. I had all of his parts from his sets that he wasn't using. I didn't sell any of his parts. I kept those as our private stash still. Um, but I started getting into it. I've always wanted to open up a business, and I thought, at my age, I shouldn't start anything really big. And I was like, it's the barrier to entry to start a Bricklink store is very low.
Yeah.
I mean,
Okay.
buy
So for people who are newer to the brick
12.
building
Go ahead.
community, or to people who are new to just Lego in general, what is Bricklink? How does a brick seller or reseller like yourself, like, how does that work? What is that exactly?
Okay. So what I refer to people, Bricklink is the eBay of Lego. So anybody has the ability to basically start a store once you get approved by Bricklink. It's not very hard to do. You can sell new items. You can sell used items. Uh, I chose only to sell new items, um, because I just learned that I tried doing used, and it's way too much work for the amount of time that I have for Bricklink. So I stick with new items. But in the U.S., I haven't checked in a while. Last time I checked, it was like 3,200 stores in the U.S. Worldwide, I have no
Hmm.
idea. But the reason it's there is that not everyone can carry all the same Lego. I can't carry every Lego piece out there. So you'll go to my store to get some pieces. You'll have to go to another store to get some pieces. That's why I refer to it as the eBay of Lego. It's all over the place, all over different stores.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And you said the barrier to entry is pretty low.
Go ahead.
So yeah, sorry.
It's pretty low. I mean, sorry. Yeah, it's pretty low. I started out with 3 brand new sets that I parted out. I went ahead and bought some acro mills, like the bins you see behind me, the black ones on the wall, and I had them sitting on a table, and I just slowly put parts away. The cool thing was there was a guy, oh my gosh, I don't think I can remember his name. I always like to try to reference him and tell other people about him, but he had videos out there about how he started his brickling store.
Okay.
And he's probably one of the only ones that was doing it at that time. But I started watching some of the videos. I got on some of his live chats and asked him some questions, and basically put my parts online. There's a couple of, you can do it all manually through the website. There's a couple of tools you can use to do it with. And I grew from basically 1,000 parts to what you see behind me now.
Yeah, so your inventory is up over 400,000 parts right now, which I would imagine puts you among one of the bigger sellers on the site.
It probably puts me in probably the top quarter. There are certain stores at 400. Yeah, it puts me probably the top quarter. There's a few stores I follow and stuff, and they've got over 1 million parts.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I look around my room and like, ain't gonna fit in here.
Yeah, it's crazy. So, like any kind of side hustle, very like humble beginnings, starting out with just a little bit here and there, and building up from there. What was it like? Take us through kind of like getting your first order and that initial like excitement, I guess, that comes when you're first starting to grow and build.
It was exciting, and again, it's one of those things. It was also scary because it's like, okay, did you actually think through all this? Do you have all the pieces you need? The cool thing was I had other people to go off of. I made sure I purchased from about 10 different stores, and I kind of looked at all the stuff that they had and they did, and so I got that all together. But of course, I made mistakes. So I started off with paper type packaging that I didn't like very much, and I would go to the post office and try to do the labels there, and it's a little bit more expensive if you go into the post office versus having a business account and using it there. So I mean, just little things that would happen and learn. The one thing I did not do is beat myself up if I did make a mistake. My number one goal is making the customer happy. I try my best to always make sure that if I make a mistake, I'm taking care of that. I'm not one of those stores that says, "Oh, I forgot your part. Here's a nickel," because I know you have to still go buy that part, and since you have to buy that part, that means you're going to be spending anywhere from $3.50 to $5 in shipping just to get that part that I forgot.
Yeah.
So I always make sure that, I forgot the part. Hey, it's going to be in the mail, and I'll have it in the mail tomorrow for you. And normally I slide in a poly bag with it. Say I'm sorry.
No, that's great, and that explains why you also have a 99.96% approval rating. Your service obviously is an attempt to go above and beyond. But how do you we can see in the video version of this podcast, we have some of the background and all your bins behind you. How do you know where everything is? I've never had an inventory that big, so how do you manage that?
So right now it's all in Bricklink. In Bricklink we have on our side, on the store side, we have what's called a remarks field, and so the remarks field is where we put whatever we want to for tracking our stuff. Like right now, all my acro mill drawers, I've got 2,060 drawers. So what you don't see is these two walls. There's two walls here, but there's a whole other exact same setup over here on this wall as well. So I've got 2,060 acro mill drawers. So I just put the number of the drawer inside the remarks for that piece that's in there. And basically whenever I do pick in my software, it has those remarks automatically put up there, so I can sort them by remarks, so I can go from this side of the room and follow it all along this way. And that's one thing I did not have set up very well to begin with. I would have when I first got started, I had to have some of my acro mills on one table over here, and I had to have them on another table over here, and so I would run back and forth to pieces, and it took me a long time. Now I have a very good system, and I have a guy in the Netherlands that started developing software, and I worked with him, and I come up with great ideas. I cannot code. I call myself a scripter because I'm an IT guy as well. That's my day job. So I'm a scripter, and I can script things. So I have scripts that help me out, but he is the programmer. I'll be like, hey man, I want to be able to label this. Hey, I want to pick 4 orders at one time. So he's like, sure, let's see if we can get that going. And he was a Bricklink seller too. Now he's pretty much become a software writer and just goes at it. And he's been writing our software for a long time.
Yeah.
In fact, this is like one of his dashboards. This is one of the sync tools that you see on the screen back here, and that's how I maintain and know what's going on in my environment most of the time.
Interesting. So you mentioned working in IT. In real life, you're in DevOps, which do you have any like
DevOps? If anybody actually knows what DevOps is.
So how does that skill set transfer to this? Because it's kind of managing a store with inventory, but it's a very digital, it's a very technologically based in terms of the work that you're doing with this, right?
It helped out a lot. Because one website, you had to figure out things. I'm very good at troubleshooting things. Working in IT, I worked in IT for over 30 years now. I've always supported developers. In fact, my current job right now is supporting development shop, a little 9-person development shop. And so I have always learned how to troubleshoot, Q&A things, write down really good errors, really good, like, hey, I did this, and this is where it failed. So I was always able to go through and figure out the problem, or hand off that problem to someone else so they can figure it out. So it really did help out. Knowing computers, period. You see a lot of screens behind me. This is pretty much Lego business. This is day job. This is day job. There's 3 different computers, and I have a 4th computer over here that's running the little stream setup right now. So it's geeky. And
so is this your
Lego.
Is this your day job office as well then? So you're like me, you're working your day job in your room surrounded by Lego.
Yes, and do you always find it hard do you get distracted very easily?
Personally, I will get distracted sometimes, but often for myself. If I'm stuck on a problem, if I'm writing and I'm not sure, like I'm get a bit of like a writer's block, or I'm not sure how to approach like a paragraph or editing, I will go and fiddle with some Lego. I'll go and do some sorting for 5 or 10 minutes, because it's the kind of thing that you can kind of do without thinking too much, and it frees up your mind to think about the work problem while not just staring at a screen, which sometimes that can just make the block worse, Yeah.
And that part you just said about kind of it's more of a mind-numbing thing to be able to do sorting and things like that. Some people ask me, how do you part out 10 different sets? Our sets can be 10 of the same set over and over and over.
I was about to, so let's get to it.
And it's like, for me, it's cathartic. I can sit, because all day long my mind's running, with work and IT stuff, and I have to use my mind constantly. When I'm sorting, I can listen to something and I can just sort and pick pieces out and things like that. So I don't have a problem with that. In fact, I make it a game for myself. How fast can I do it? Without making mistakes.
That's interesting. I love how you kind of challenge yourself, make a little game out of it to take away some of the monotony, while also appreciating the fact that it is something that just lets you kind of zone out a little bit and gives you some of that. Like you said, it's cathartic a little bit. So
it is cathartic.
When you're sorting, having parted out Lego and put sets into my inventory and stuff like that, usually it's sets that I have built and I just want to now use for parts, whereas you're taking in let's say a brand new set, opening the box and parting out immediately. Do you find it easier because it's in like organized bags, let's say 10 of the same set? It's all the same part, basically. There's 20 or 30 or whatever different elements in each bag, right?
Yeah, so for you've already broken all the bags open, so everything's mixed together, right? So you have to figure out a way you want to do it at that point. And a lot of people will go, okay, I'm going to sort by colors, and then I'm going to sort by part. or I'm going to sort by part, and then I'm going to sort by color. So for me, I'm opening up bag one, pour them all into a thing, sort them. Pull out bag two, pull them on the thing. Sometimes I'll look at bag one and bag two, be like, okay, you've got kind of the same parts. You know, you have some of the same parts, so let me throw you all in the same thing. But I literally, hold on a second. Most of my parting out happens in this big rubber bucket right here. And I have, I don't know if you can see these trays back here on these. Those trays are what I part into. That's actually a special order I have for somebody else, but I use those trays, and I have a lot of those trays to break up things. And so my biggest thing is making everything pretty much easy. You know, easy storage. I used to start out with solo cups, and I would have 30 solo cups laid out on a table, and then I ran out of space. So now I can stack these little guys up on top of each other, and I've had them stacked up, you know, I think 30 and 40 high, some of them off the ground.
Wow.
And they only take up about a foot, you know, square foot of space. So I always made sure that when I turn my money back into the company, I always try to help myself out, trying to make it, you know, a lot easier to do my job as I go along. So,
and
because whenever you do grow so big, you run out of space.
Yeah, because you mentioned starting very small and kind of growing, and now you're a pretty big seller.
Yes.
And I asked this of a previous guest, but like, how do you, because it is a side hustle, and for a lot of people that means kind of not real work, but you're clearly approaching it, it's another business that I'm running here. Like, how do you approach like budgeting in terms of, like you said, putting money back into upgrade storage or upgrade technologies or anything like that? Or is that kind of just ad hoc based on what you need at a given time?
1 second. Forgot about my Alexa going off. She's unplugged now.
No, okay, no problem.
Budgeting is what you were asking about. How do I go about doing this? So I've always started this out because someday I want to retire. And that's why pretty much every bit of the dollars that I make out of this goes directly right back into the store. I am constantly, I'm not taking any profits out. I'm always trying to help myself get faster at it and grow in a smart way. So it does work. The only thing that I do take the money out for is paying our taxes, because I'm not even considered an LLC. I'm considered a sole proprietor. So a sole proprietor is all lumped into one income, basically. So my day job income and this income. So I pay all my quarterly taxes that I pay across all the board, you know, pretty much with this job, and just a little bit of taxes at the end. But the hope is that when I do get finished with my day job and I'm actually finished retiring and stuff like that, I can turn this over and start actually. Now I've got an environment that I can actually start selling pieces and just kind of making a little bit of income off the side. It's not income that I need because I have my retirement, you know, plan out there, unless something goes crazy with the stock market yet again, which it will. I know by the time I retire, but it's just something that keeps my mind going and can make a little money on the side.
Yeah,
and it's fun. To me, it's fun. Again, people are like, how do you pick all those pieces, stick them on the account? Like today, I counted out 2,230 pieces.
Wow.
For one order. For me, it was fun. So
yeah. So is that, I mean, that kind of, the budget question is always not a fun thing usually. You know, most people, the budget, the taxes, stuff like that, that's far from exciting, but it's necessary if you're you know, have
it's
a
required.
business like this, right?
It's not necessary, it's required.
Exactly. So, and you just mentioned picking a big order here. Take us through kind of a typical day as like a Lego seller that has a full-time job. How do you balance those things?
So one, I'm blessed. My day job, I'm working remote. I work 100% from home. I've been doing that for over 11 years now, even since before COVID. I was doing it. So whenever COVID hit, it was just a normal thing for me, except, you know, my kids were home from school. So yeah, it was just normal. And so we're also very laid back. We're a software company that makes brain scan software for GE's MRI machines.
Okay.
And we literally have like 2 releases a year. So when those 2 releases comes, it becomes a, hey, we got to get this done type thing. You know, it's a good 2 months worth of, okay, let's just do this, don't focus on anything else.
Yeah.
And then the rest of the time is, hey, get your job done. And my boss is like, you get your job done, everything else is great.
Yeah.
So I will pick orders while I'm on the day job. If I can't do it that day, I'll stay up that night and pick the orders that night. I pride myself on getting things turned around within 24 hours, usually. Weekends, of course. It all depends on my post office. My post office closes at 11 on Saturdays, so I just basically, that's my only day to sleep in. So if I get up and I have orders, sometimes I'm like, sorry, couldn't get to them because I can't get it to the post office in time.
Yeah, and I think most people understand that issue.
Yeah.
Not a big deal.
Yeah, they're not a big deal, but it's one of those things. I literally, so going back to making things efficient, it's the fact that I wake up in the morning and I've got 4 orders. The great thing is the way I've set up the software, or the guy that set up the software for me, and the way I set up my room, I go around the room one time for 4 orders.
Wow. Yeah.
So I go down, get 4 orders picked, bring them back to my desk. I pack each individual order, and it's basically packing right. There's a desk right in front of me with all my packing materials behind the camera. Turn around, do my labels, print out my labels, pack it, stick it. If I can't make it to the post office, I'll ask my wife, hey, would you run it over there for me? She'll do it for me every once in a while. So
has
worked itself out.
Has efficiency always been something that you've kind of prized? You've been in IT for a long time. It sounds like this is something that is like a recurring theme in terms of just work habits in general, not just running a store.
Being in IT, you can either be contacted by your manager to tell you what to do. I always have had this saying, if you do not manage your manager, you will be managed. So I always try to learn how my manager wants things. I try to make sure that I'm managed to what he needs. And usually that's just being fast about things, efficient about things. And so I'll write scripts to help me out. I'll figure out better ways of doing things. I'll actually stop people. If people have come to me 3 and 4 times over the same thing, it's like, okay, guys, let's stop and figure out why we're doing these things 3 and 4 times, over and over again, and let's see how we can fix that. So yeah, it's always been pretty efficient, and I'm not the fittest guy, and my joke is always that I'm a lazy IT guy. I don't want to work too hard, so I want to go have lunch.
And that's fair. So I mean, it's funny because I think most people would think of your store something that's fairly big. It's nice that it kind of complements your regular work, and your work life is flexible enough to kind of go hand in hand. But it's still a lot of work. How do you balance it? Like, do you have any hobbies or things you do for fun, so you're not just locked in your store and your office all day? Like, is this it?
I enjoy the Lego. I really do. I will get on Twitch and watch when I can. I'll watch people. I'm amazed at the amount of things that people can build. There's no way that I'm doing that. I'm usually the guy buying the instructions so that I can buy the pieces or pull the pieces out of my store to build my own things. At times, actually, I don't do that very often. Excuse me. But I mean, my hobbies are pretty much work, store, my family. We hang out usually in the evenings. I'm hardly ever working up here in the evenings. So after 4 o'clock, everything's already packed, mailed, and sent off. The only time I do that is on the busy release times, and they'll be like, hey, I've got to go upstairs and do this, or Saturday. Now, on Saturdays and Sundays, usually Sundays after church, we're pretty free. Everybody's got a little bit of something they want to do. My wife has her own hobbies. My kids are doing their thing. So the Sundays I'll come up here and I'll do what I need to do. And again, like I said, it's fun for me.
Yeah.
I enjoy going out. And so it's kind of like, there's people that are very addicted to flipping. So, they want to go out and find the best deals. They want to come back in and see what kind of, what they can make on that. And for me, that's the hobby.
Yeah.
Finding a Lego out there for cheap is exciting.
Yeah.
Or finding, hey, I found a CMF. Everybody wants this CMF and they have it for $4. That $4 CMF, I take it and I pull the head off, all the accessories. I pull the arms off, the hands off, and I put them into my store. I can sell that $4 minifig for $12 something.
Yeah.
Because
so you part out the minifigs as well.
It may take a little bit longer, but guess what? Someone's dog is going to chew the hand off or the arm off of a minifig and or destroy it, and they don't want to buy a $13 minifig now, they want to buy that part, so they come back to my store to buy that
Yeah.
part. And so I have a lot of guys that do use pieces, and they contact me. Hey, you got these pieces? Hey, you got this piece? Yeah,
Hmm.
take a look. Here you go. So
You
I
mentioned,
have.
sorry,
Go
go
ahead.
ahead. Go ahead.
Nah, go ahead.
You mentioned the something I can relate to, and a lot of collectors can relate to, I think, is the thrill of the hunt, of the finding the thing you can put into your inventory. Um, how do you approach that? Are you kind of always looking for the deals online? Are you local flyers? What is your approach? Because it's
So
not a collector's approach.
yeah,
What do
so
you do?
both. So both. I'm looking online. So online, I'm getting 2x part outs. My clearance sales in Walmart and things like that, I'll get 3x level part outs. And what I mean by that, that's like I make 3 times off the parts on those sets. I can look at 2 times. So I mentioned earlier I get a special order back here for me. For
Hmm.
me, I'll take in people that don't want to deal with Bricklink. They want to send me a wanted list, and I'll go and collect all the parts for them. I will deal with all the stores for them. If there's problems, I'll communicate with the stores. They don't have to
Oh.
worry about that. All they're going to get is a set of parts, packaged nicely, and they pay me for that service basically. So when I'm going out to go buy those parts, I never come back. Well, I have come back from some of the stores online without buying some cheap parts in their store. So I'll go in and be like, okay, I'm buying your parts, which I'm already being paid for. I'm going to go ahead and purchase these 6 minifigs out of their store as well, part them out, and over time, I will have paid for this entire order from those pieces. Plus, I got paid for the other thing.
Interesting.
So,
So
and
you'll.
I always also, whenever you're doing shipping, you should have a wanted list of everything you want, or whatever. Let's say there's normal things you build with. I would say always keep a wanted list there. So you buy all your parts, and let's say it's $4.50 shipping. Add a little bit more, still $4.50. Add a little bit more from your wanted list, $4.50. Add a little bit more. It goes to $5. Back that off. So now your shipping has now been efficiently
Yeah.
used. So I try not to waste shipping.
Yeah, no, I can relate to that in terms of as a buyer on Bricklink, where you visit a store, you're trying to maximize what you can get within the same shipping level of price, right?
Right.
And I guess the same thing is for you. Do you ever, like if you have a customer, especially a regular, do you ever kind of reach back out and say, hey, listen, I still have room for, X number of things. If you want to buy some more, it will fit in the same package. Is that something that you ever do? Or is that...
I don't, because it becomes extra work. And I'm I don't mind the efficiency. Now, if I'm retired and I'm doing this on the side, I may be like, hey, I miscounted. You just bought all my 1x1 plates, white plates, and I actually have 20 extra. You want to, give me 10 cents more, or give me, $1 more, and I'll throw that in as well if they want to. I would do that, but just the interaction time it takes to communicate back and forth, because guess what? Most of the time we had to interact through Bricklink. And so it's a mess, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So I do have plans later on to be like, hey, I have a lot of return customers. I've got guys that have ordered 50 something times in my store. So those people, I'm thinking about, reaching out via email, asking them if they're okay with me reaching out via email and letting them know, hey, I just put in 4,000 parts. Here's the day I'm going to do it. Here's the time I'm going to release them. Come in and get them whenever you want to. Or is there anything you want me to pull out for you, type thing. So,
like if you have regulars, are building certain things. So again, for those listening who are maybe new to the brick building community, Lego collecting in general, people who are buying parts off Bricklink are either buying maybe the set from a store, but as a part seller, your customers are more likely to be buying parts for creative builds, personal builds. If maybe they're a castle fan, or they're building a giant castle, or they're building some kind of giant mech or something like that, and so you get a sense of the kinds of parts they like.
So black, light bluish gray, dark bluish gray, and you'll have all the Star Wars customers you want.
There you go. The Star Wars customers are a big segment, I guess, of the brick building.
They are.
Fandom.
Unfortunately, you pay the Disney tax if you're trying to get those pieces a lot of times.
So you mentioned buying parts. like from other sellers, for example, kind of being kind of a middleman, managing and charging, for that service you're providing others. But also there's the, shopping around, hunting, going to the Walmart clearance or the Target clearance, stuff like that.
Yes.
Is that a like weekly project? Is that something you kind of do when you see sales come on? Like, is there
It's
like
more about when sales happen. So it's Walmart mostly people will deal with to begin with. Within a 45-minute area, or excuse me, 45-minute range around my house, I could probably hit 25 Walmarts. So I'm in
Wow.
a big metropolitan area. So when it comes to clearance time, they usually run them twice a year. June, starting in June, July, and they'll be right in those areas at that time. Right after Christmas, you'll have some right after Christmas, but they'll be better usually January, February timeframe. They'll be big. So I just know to watch for those. So basically, I'm saving up money until that time comes, and then I go out and grab what I can. Same thing goes with buying online. Guess what right now, summer is the hardest time for Bricklink sellers.
Okay.
Sales drop, they go away. One, because all the big cons have already finished up, so now they're trying to figure out what they want to do for the next one. They're out traveling, they're out vacationing, they're out having a good time. They're not locked in their cellars in a cold winter, building Lego and need more Lego. So during this time, I like to save up money myself for this time, because other stores will put their stuff on sale. They'll put it on 35% off, 45% off, and I'm going and snagging some of that stuff from their stores and putting it in our stores. And I've had people do that to me too. If I don't keep up on my, on my pricing, some of my stuff can fall behind and it can become rare, and then they purchase all of my stuff. And someone asked me, it's like, don't you get mad at that? I'm like, no, I do it to other people, and I got the price I asked for. So there's some store owners that literally block you. They
Really?
block you if they figure that out. I actually had one block me, and I was like, I didn't read the terms. I was like, I am so sorry.
Yeah.
That was not my intention. I just bought, like 6 minifigs all at one time, the same one, and it took it out there, and that upset him. So I was like, sorry, but it hasn't happened very often.
Yeah, and that's one of the things you mentioned, that it's a little bit speculative too, because unlike, you buy a set at a store, when you're a part seller or a part buyer, there's some fluctuation, right? Things can suddenly go up in demand, and the price goes up and the value goes up on Bricklink, and therefore as a seller you want to make sure that you're on par with that level. You don't want to fall behind, or you don't maximize what you're going to get out of it, right?
Right.
Do you like go through your pricing regularly to make sure of this, or how do you kind of make the best of it?
I have a couple of tools I go through, and I can download my entire store inventory, and I can price it all in one shot, and then upload those prices to Bricklink. And so I will do those usually like every 3 to 4 months. So Bricklink's pricing changes it doesn't change every 6 months, but they have a 6-month average that travels along. So there's not really huge changes all at one time. So I feel comfortable doing like every 2 to 3 months, and updating my pricing for things. So
Okay.
Yeah, trying to think what else I was gonna say there. That's about
Lost it. That's fine. So let's come back a little bit. We're going to backtrack. We've gone into a lot of kind of the operational side of things for you. Let's backtrack to kind of getting started. You kind of started small. Was it something you learned to love, or was it something that, like you said, this is fun for you? You realized right away, oh, I like this. Like, did it catch on quick?
I liked the little scared feeling. When I first started out, it was because everything else to me, I'd been in IT for so long, everything's pretty easy, as long as I stayed up to date with the latest technologies and things like that, I could learn that stuff pretty quickly. I couldn't learn taxes quickly. I couldn't learn, shipping and figuring out the shipping cost and prices and making sure I'm doing that efficiently. That came over time with doing shipping. Some people have a shipping tier for every weight level. I finally made mine just dead simple. It's $5, for anything under $35, $35 it's free shipping. So people take advantage of that $35 in free. That package today was, they got their pieces at a good deal compared to other places.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, it simplified things, and I've had a lot of sellers tell me, or not sellers, but buyers tell me, "Thank you. It's just simple. I know what I'm going to get when I come here. I know what I'm going to, I know how much it's going to cost." And I'll have anywhere someone buy I have people buy the antenna, I can't think of the name, the 2-part antenna piece, and they'll buy one of those and they'll pay $5 shipping, and it just drives me crazy because I know, but I'm like, they know my terms.
Yeah, that's
So
their choice.
it's their choice. It's at times I'm like, you sure you don't want to just add in a bunch of other stuff real quick, because it's
Yeah. The efficiency side of you is like, but you're just wasting the shipping cost. You're not spreading it out over all these parts.
But it's helping me because I'm paying off that shipping, for the higher guys packages.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that's fair. So you kind of knew right away that this is something you enjoyed.
It was exciting. Like I said, it was scary, but it was exciting, and it was something brand new that I had never done. So staying up on that, I've been doing this truthfully since about 2016. 2017 was pretty much real time for me. I'm actually going to start putting my own money into this. When I say own money, I started this out by putting $100 in and buying some sets, parting those out. I bought my hardware and my stuff that I put my inventory into when it came to Christmas and birthdays. It'd be like, hey, what do you want for Christmas? Give me a gift card to such and such. Give me a gift card here. Then give me a gift card to Walmart. I'll buy parts with that. So I would use that type of money to get started, just bootstrapping things. And then like I said, as I got more sales in, I started dropping more, into inventory as I could, and it just builds up over time. And then one day you look up and your wife goes, "What have you done?" I don't know.
I don't know. I'm buried.
I joke with her. I'm like, truthfully, this isn't a business. I'm waiting to that point where I'm like, store failed. Now I've got a massive personal collection.
Yeah. Oh well. I'm sad. So is that you mentioned kind of not really, you had a dark ages and kind of got back into Lego a little bit, but you're not a collector in the sense that a lot of people are, where they buy sets of a certain theme or.
Yeah, right now I've got 2 kids I got one kid in college. I've got one that's going to graduate next year and go into college. So collecting is just not a thing for me. The only thing I've purchased for myself every once in a while, some of the Star Wars sets. So whenever they redid the Tantive I had to have that one. I didn't get the first one, and that's the first real spaceship I can remember seeing in the theater with my dad. Because I saw Star Wars in the theater back then, and that was the first ship that flew up on the screen. And so from that point on, it was like, I love this thing. So I have that one sitting back here, but I don't have any place to put it. So I haven't built it yet.
No.
I have some of the helmets. I really like the helmet designs. Not all of them, but I have some of the helmets. A lot of Star Wars stuff, pretty much. But at some point I will, once the kids are out and I have a room to put things into, then that's probably where I'll start building them, and that's where they'll go. So if I ever do stream, I can build those really old sets that you've seen many years ago over again.
Yeah. No, it's good. And like you've said, this is something that it's not a source of income for you in the sense that you have a job to provide for your needs. This is more of a keeps me busy, gives me some potential income down the road that I'm now going to use when I retire, which also just, I guess, keeps you busy, at that time.
It keeps me busy. And the great thing is, like I said, when I go on those clearance sales, I'll find sets that have been sold out. For some reason, this Walmart has one set and it's half off, and so I'm like,
that's a big win.
That's not going into the store; it's going into my personal collection.
Nice.
So that I can't collect them that way, in my opinion. I just got to remember to split the money out, personal versus business, type thing. But I truthfully, don't get me wrong, I love Lego. I don't build a lot, but my biggest joy is people on Instagram sending me, copying me and things and saying, "Hey, here's what I built with your parts," or "Hey, I'm watching the Twitch streamers, build some of the stuff." I mean, I started off with Brick and Nick. Brick and Nick was my first Lego streamer I came across, and I was just amazed at what he was doing. And then, of course, from that point on, it's just been streamer after streamer, and so now it's like just jump on and see what they're building, what they're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
That's how I keep my love for the Lego going.
Yeah, and it's
God,
how you contribute too, because realistically, could somebody have bought the parts from someone else? Yes, but the fact they bought them from you and your store makes you a part of
yeah,
that story.
yeah,
Like I bought a bunch of parts from you at some point for a water build, and that immediately makes you a part of that build that was
makes me feel good.
put together. No, it's definitely interesting to get like this side of, it's already a niche thing. As popular as Lego has become, over the last few years, especially in the content creation side, it's grown by leaps and bounds.
Yeah,
um, you know it's still a relatively niche thing, and you are like a smaller niche as a brick seller. And I'm wondering, like you said, you kind of got into it as a um, you're looking for minifigs for your son, and where can I
right,
find these by themselves without actually having to buy the whole set?
right,
um, you
and they're
know
real,
Sorry.
and they're real Lego.
The real ones, yes, exactly. So like you got into this kind of just kind of stumbled into that. Have is that, not to get into how you started in IT, but like, is that something that has happened before with you, where you kind of got interested in something kind of by accident, and then it really kind of became a big deal for you?
Yeah, I mean IT for sure. I can go back to the movies again. I can remember going to see War Games as a 14-year-old,
Hmm.
and the hacking and the computer side of it and things like that really got me excited and stuff. And so my parents were both school teachers, very limited income, and they somehow purchased me at that time a $4,000 IBM PC, uh, which they don't realize basically set me on my course to becoming an IT person. I had it at my fingertips.
Wow.
I was able to do what I needed to do. I was able to get online, find things that no other people, no one else could do. When people had questions about things, I already had the computer, so I could usually tell them about it or tell them
Mm.
about what the latest and greatest things. I can still remember one of my friend's fathers. My other friend was also in IT, and he still works at a local college here as an IT person. Uh, but his father is like, "You guys are so into these computers." At that time, you couldn't find information on. You didn't find a lot of. There was no websites. It's at
Mm-hmm.
this time.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, Why aren't you buying the magazines?" And so I can remember that. So I think a week later, I had a subscription to PC Magazine, Byte Magazine, whatever other magazine it was, PC World, I think it was. Um, I would get 3 to 4 magazines and read them and be
Mm-hmm.
up to date on what's going on and stuff like that, and just kept on going. Then the internet hit when I was in college, and just kept going from there.
It's, it honestly, it strikes me how similar that is to kind of one of the main points from Malcolm Gladwell's book Outliers. People always look at that book and think of the 10,000 hour rule that he kind of pieced together as a rule, when it really wasn't. That wasn't the main point. One of the main points of the book is it has to be that 10,000 hours, but you also have to kind of be in the right situation. In this
Oh yeah,
case, you were somebody who was maybe interested in IT, but your parents found a way to get you a computer when that interest was peaking, and it guided you kind of basically on a lifelong path. And without that computer at that time, maybe that doesn't happen.
I totally agree. And the other thing is when I went off to college, they finally asked me to leave because I didn't have grades. Because I took everybody's shift and worked in the computer labs.
Wow.
So I don't even have a 4-year degree in computers or anything. I learned by doing.
Mm.
And so the other thing that happened just at that time was the internet. I jumped from I felt like I couldn't. I didn't feel like I could go out and get a big company job, so I went and got a little small company job and worked their PC support. One of my friends got a job at US Long Distance. He pulled me over there. I worked help desk and slowly made my way up to a system administrator in about a year. And
Mm.
then someone hired me on at USAA, and I went to USAA and worked there for 2 years. Jumped from there, and from there I went from working with 3 or 4 computers to working with 400 computers in a lab. Then I jumped to Vignette Corporation during the dot bomb days. I got there just before they decided to start laying off everybody,
Mm.
and we went through what we considered ourselves on 90-day contracts.
Okay.
Over the next 2, 3, 4 years, we had every I think we went through 13 layoffs,
Wow.
and so we would go through that, and then I moved over to another company where I thought I was going to be helping out the individual warfighter called Overwatch Tactical Systems. And
Mm.
that's where I got my side. It's on how bad money's spent in the military.
Mm. So
And then go ahead.
go ahead.
I was gonna say then they asked me when that business actually was closed down, and they asked me when did you know the business was gonna be closed down? I said pretty much from when I started here, I knew that they were. It's just the military takes a long time to cut things. And then the guy I supported that day, the current job that I have, I supported his team because we were an IT that supported like 3 little companies, but one main company. And he's like, "Who's going to take care of our stuff?" And so while we're having the meeting, I'm texting him in the meeting, "You can always hire me." And he literally, I
Nice.
can hear him talking, and I get a text back, "We'll talk after this." And so I've
Yeah.
been there ever since, and yeah, love it
Nice.
to death.
No, that's good. I mean, and it definitely shows like both of those situations of, kind of like you had an interest and a passion that you turned into like a successful career, and then this kind of second side hustle is the same thing where you had an interest. It might have been sparked by kind of a practical, parent situation, but then hey, I can do this, and it does fit with my skills, it fits with my interests, and see where I can go.
One thing was it was fun for me. But there are times when I did not want to learn anything brand new. But it's some of those times that's when you kick yourself in the pants and have to do it. And what I found out with all the layoffs is if you don't do it yourself, someone's going to tell you you have to go do it, and that's usually by being laid off or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So knock on wood, I've had a company closed underneath me, but I've never been laid off. And I had a job within a few, in this case, an hour later.
Yeah. So when you talk about like loving the bricklink aspect, the sorting, and then in the picking the orders and stuff like that, and on the days you don't love it so much, what do you do, to bring yourself to do it? Aside from maybe giving yourself a just get up and do it, is there something that motivates you or at least drives you beyond when your motivation isn't there?
Nah, I mean, it's just get up and do it.
Yeah.
So for me, I can say I don't want to upset my customers.
Hmm.
So when it comes to Bricklink, I don't want to upset my customers. When it comes to the IT side, I have to push myself because like I said, I've been doing it for 30 years. So that, yay, I love IT stuff. It's now become, okay, IT,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so I'm at that point now. It's like, hey, we're changing technologies. Oh,
Yeah. Instead of the excitement of something new, it's yeah. No, I can understand that.
I'm getting to that point.
Yeah.
But I just push myself through it, and
Yeah.
God's given me the ability to learn, and that's what I'm going to use, as much as I can, as long as I can.
Yeah, and you mentioned kind of not wanting to let down your customers. It's amazing what having that bit of external accountability can have, and when you
yes.
have a 99% approval rating, you're like, I want to see that stay there, or even go a little higher with every notch. So that's a big.
I
That's
try
a big
not
help.
to. I try not to make mistakes. I do make mistakes, and like I said before, I think we talked earlier, but the way I go about not making mistakes is I count every part into the tray. I count every part out of the tray into the bags. So there's usually 2, sometimes 3 times counts on things, so that I'm making sure that it's in there. And then that incentive of I've always told myself that if I screw up, I'm gonna make sure they get their Lego, and then I'm also going to throw in something extra. And I have one return customer. I can remember he made an order. I screwed up on it. I sent him the motorcycle Captain America poly bag way back when, and I got an email back from him. He goes, "Man, I've never had anybody do this for me." And to this day, I follow him on Instagram. We talk back and forth every once in a while. He's always ordering from me here and there. So he's a return customer. I got a guy in Canada that he's like, "Hey, I can't get this stuff in Canada. And can you buy this stuff for me?" So I went around and bought some of the stuff for him. And this is one of my very first guys. And I purchased a bunch of windscreens, the blue trans blue windscreens,
Mm-hmm.
the darker blue, and I got them in and I looked at them. This guy said they were new. I looked at them and I didn't really have any sets with any windscreens.
Mm-hmm.
And something told me don't send these, but I sent them to him. And seeing being in Canada, it takes 2-3 weeks to get there. Before they even got to him, I had purchased brand new ones, and they came in, or not brand new ones. I purchased a whole nother order because the other ones were supposed to be new. I got these new ones in, and I just looked at them going, I can't believe I just sent those to those guys. So I mean, before the package arrived, said, hey, your windscreens are in there, but they suck. I'm gonna turn around. I'm gonna ship these windscreens right out. And he immediately, I mean, he's still on Instagram, still a customer, and I love it.
Yeah, and that's really when you talk about mistakes being made. And I think in any kind of customer service situation, what is it? To err is human, right? Like it's what you do in those moments that really can develop a bond with the customer or destroy it. And if you handle it well, like you said, you can make people very happy, even though you've made a mistake, if you handle it the right way.
Yeah.
It's one of those situations in like I used to run a retail store, and it was a like brick and mortar, it was a bowling pro shop, and part of it is a service of fitting someone's hand, and then making sure you drill the bowling ball and they go and bowl, and you have to you watch and make sure that it feels okay, it fits okay, and then it's like
you're watching their face maybe to see how they feel when they're doing it.
You're watching, how it comes off their hand, how if they're happy with what they see, with what they feel, and then adjusting from there. And every so often, you make a mistake, and that's the opportunity not to say, oh, I know what I'm doing, you just go do that, you'll be fine. It's, oh, maybe I need to fix that, and that's the situation, to give good service in that way. And with you, in the case of a retailer, there's no service to add or fix other than here's your part and here's a little bonus for my my screw up. And
I'll email them, have a whole long message apologizing, crying, pictures of me crying. Sorry.
No, it's great. It's what you have to do kind of in that business where you have a customer and know the customer is not always right, but I can be wrong, and here's my way of making it up to you.
Right. Exactly.
So, in terms of your store, in terms of like you've already mentioned that your plan is kind of as a retirement job or income. Do you have any goals for the store? Did you start with any goals of I'm going to grow to 500,000 parts and be one of the top sellers, or
I've only had one goal, and that was to get to 300,000 parts.
Okay.
And I got that goal, and that was with about 3 other Bricklink guys. They're like, hey, let's make a goal. We're going to get to 300,000 parts. And, one guy got there in a week because he's Big Beat Bricks, and Big Beat Bricks has over 1 million something in his store. He went full time, and he's done an amazing job. I thank him a lot because he helped me a lot along the way and stuff. So like when other Bricklink sellers come along, I'm always helping them as well. I'm like, hey, yeah, do this, do that. You might want to look at this. You might want to do it this way. This is the way I do it, but find the way that works for you. I think the biggest one is storage. Like some people will stack all 1x3 bricks of the same color in one bin. Well, then I do it by color in a bin a piece. So I have to have for five colors. For 5 colors, I have to have 5 bins. So they may have 1 bin for 5 colors, but guess what? Whenever they're picking, they're going, picking out, out that I'm just dumping in my hand, counting, dropping in the thing, and moving on.
Yeah.
But I always tell people, do what's right for you as far as the storage, or do what's right for you when it comes to customer, especially the storage piece, because for me, I put a left and a right. Everybody puts their left and right wedges together. I put my left wedge over here, and about 4 drawers over, I put my right wedge over, back over here, because if I open up the wrong drawer, I'm gonna grab it and be like, "That's it." If I put it right next to it, if I don't hold it, up and look at it, I'm gonna send the wrong wedge. And so I literally double check. That's one of my biggest things, is double checking, anything left and right.
It's crazy all the processes you've put in place, and you're saying it as if it's like not a big deal. But so much of what you've said over the course of this chat has been things to reduce the errors you're making, and maybe at the time it was you put a lot of thought into it, but the way you talk about it is just like second nature. And maybe that's from your skill set, with work and everything else.
Second nature, or learned behavior. Learned what I learned from my mistakes, because I literally
Exactly.
I put dark blue and dark blue and black of the same part next to each other, and
Ugh.
and I literally picked the wrong part and sent them a dark blues instead of dark blacks. So from
Mhm.
that point on, it was like, nope. Anytime that happens, I'm moving those things over and doing it. And
Mhm.
so every once in a while, I'll be, when I'm going through things fast and I'm just putting things in, I don't literally pay attention to what's going right next to each other.
Mhm.
Sometimes, a lot of times I am, but then I'll
Mhm.
be pulling parts and I'll be like, let's take these and stick them over here in this area, because I know I will screw that up later on.
Yeah, and it's those little things that you realize, either learning from a mistake that you made in the past, or recognizing the potential future mistake and saying, "Oh, I can stop that from happening with a little bit of
Right.
foresight, with a little bit of thinking, and I can just separate them a little bit and make sure that I don't make that mistake down the road." And that kind of thought process is really quite impressive, to be honest.
Thank you.
So what's the
IT's probably done that for me.
I would think so. You said you're not a coder, but I think that's the kind of thing that, when every keystroke matters,
Yeah.
and one little mistake means you got to go back and review everything. I would imagine that kind of thought process gets into your brain, and you start to think about all those other potential little mistakes with 400,000 parts and X number of bins. You want to minimize those mistaken keystrokes.
Yes, because in U.S. long distance, I deleted the entire accounting drive because I didn't realize the person had the rights to it.
That sounds like quite the story.
Yeah, it was just one of those things, working on her desktop, and I was like, okay, these files, I thought I had moved to the right directory, and I was in her C drive or whatever it was, and I was like, delete ***, hit enter, and it was like, those files don't look right. Control C, Control C, Control C, Control C, and I was like, I'm sorry, I've got to go, and I just got up, walked straight to the system administrator, and said, this is what I did, this is the drive I did it on, you're gonna have to go to the backups because I just deleted those files. And I took my whipping, hey, don't do that again. Why aren't you thinking about that? Type thing. But that's the other thing is, I had to own up to it, because if you don't own up to it, then it's even worse later on.
Yeah, if you don't own those mistakes, you're never going to learn from it either.
Right.
So it's an incredible story of a kind of accidental hobby side hustle that you started with, what, like $100 and a few sets and a few bins, to be in the top 25% of the store size, with such a good rating. Did you think that it was going to go that far? Did you you said you had a goal of 300,000 at some point. You probably didn't set that from day one.
No, not day one. Day one was just like, I can't believe I'm doing this type thing. And then it was like, hey, I want to buy these acro mills, and then it became finding the best deals on the acro mills and finding, what I could do there. And then it became, okay. So then the organization of setting them up, because they used to be all on wire racks. So
Mm.
organizing them and being like, and stepping back and going, look what I've done. This is so cool. Like, you look at your room. I mean, I geeked out on that every time you showed pictures of that rolling table that you have with bins on the side. I was like, ooh.
Yeah. And it's funny because I have that, and you mentioned having all of the 1x3s of different colors all in one bin. I'm like, yeah, that's me.
Yeah, but that's the way you think, and that's the way. And as a builder, that's where you would go for all your one by. You know what I mean?
Yeah. As a
So
builder,
I
I
get it.
don't need to be quite as organized as a seller. If I was selling, I would
Yeah.
want to have my stuff a little easier at hand without having to look through things.
And you can definitely see some Bricklink stores where they're those guys are builders first and sellers second.
Mm-hmm.
And you can see it from their organization. You can see how they talk about it and things like that, and some of the stuff they offer. But yeah, I'm seller first and watcher of Lego second.
This has been a great chat. So we've talked about you being on Bricklink. You also are on Brick Owl, even though it's a much smaller portion of what you do.
Yes.
Where can people find your stores? What is it? Where do they find you?
www.mevitsbricks.com. And if you're a Bricklink seller, there's a Bricklink link there. If you're a Brick Owl, not seller but buyer, you can click on the Brick Owl and you'll take me directly to my stores on either side. Yeah, and that's the other thing. I worked with the guy in the Netherlands, the developer, and he now my master database for all my parts are right behind me. It used to be Bricklink used to be my master, and you always sync to Brick out. Now my master sits right back here and it syncs out to both stores completely. And so if I wanted to, he's working on an eBay piece, down the road. I can literally turn my inventory on, say sync my inventory to eBay, and set up my shipping and pricing over there. But then it would just sync them there and keep all 3 stores up to date and things like that. So
that's amazing. That's amazing. This has been a great chat. Thank you very much for
I've
being
enjoyed
here.
the heck out of it.
Yeah, this has been awesome to have this background, behind the scenes look at a Bricklink seller.
Hopefully at some point in the future, when all the craziness dwells down, I might actually stream some of this stuff and just see how the day-to-day goes.
I would love to get just a day-to-day of you doing your thing as a sort parting out and sorting and picking your orders and things. I would enjoy the heck out of that myself. So
may have to do a sorting stream where we're all together in the same stream and talk at the same time.
And then you can critique my technique for sorting.
Oh, I don't critique that because your brain works your way and my brain works my way.
Yeah, that's
we can learn some stuff from we can learn some stuff from each other, but it's still that's the way it works.
Absolutely. Well, thanks again for being here. It's been a great episode.
Thank you.
Mevitsbricks.com, you said to find the links to the various hosting sites for those stores. We'll also see you popping up on chats on Twitch and on Instagram occasionally.
Can I plug in one other thing?
Mm-hmm.
On that same website, mevitsbricks.com, you can find a link to streamers or /streamers when you go to that website, and I keep a list of all the LEGO streamers that I've found or people that request to be put on there.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're looking for more streamers, you can go through that list and just click on them and go to other people's streams as well. Yeah. But usually you find everybody by raids and things like that.
Yeah, but still, that's another way that you're supporting the community in your own way, which is amazing.
Yeah, thank you. Oh yeah, and also every order, let me put it the right way. I put in a card for the same website, so that any new people that come along can find streamers as they go. So
yeah, fantastic. Thanks very much, man.
Yeah.